Hi, welcome to this talk. My name is Tam, and I'm joined by Martyak, Executive Vice President at PowerSecure. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining.
Hello, good morning.
So, to begin, could you please introduce yourself in a little bit more depth and tell our audience how you came to be in the industry and how you came into be with PowerSecure?
Sure, thanks for this opportunity. So my name is Martyak. I've actually been in this business for 45 years, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having fun. I've only had two jobs in my life, both with mission critical companies. My first company was Smith Secondary Consulting Engineers, where I specialized in mission critical power and then later in distributed generation. And then in 2000, I was blessed to be one of the founders of PowerSecure. And we have just been blessed ever since to have grown exponentially. Went from a very humble beginning to NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, and then we were purchased by the Southern Company, a just blue chip utility, become their microgrid strategic partner.
Great. And for those that have never come across PowerSecure, can you please just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, the industries that you work with, and some of your current focus?
Sure. So from the very beginning, we've been specializing in mission critical power and distributed generation. We were actually doing microgrids before anybody really knew what a microgrid was, frankly. And that's put us in a great position for where we are today. We actually we're very unique in the industry in that we have all the core competencies under one roof to do a complete mission critical power system or microgrid. We do all our own project development with our customers. We have the capability of doing all our own in-house engineering, although we partner with large engineering firms all over the country. We manufacture the strategic components of our microgrids, those components that we really can't find on the market. And then we have our full construction capability. But again, we also partner with construction companies all across the United States, especially on our larger data center projects. And then we monitor all of our microgrids on a 24/7 basis, and we use that data to constantly improve our reliability. And that makes us very unique. The industries that we serve are really a number of market verticals. So first of all, we're very active in the large utility business. We have very many large utility customers that we serve. We also have a retail market vertical. So a lot of the household name big boxes are our customers as well. We have a large healthcare and health sciences group, a large federal group, and then I'm blessed to actually head up our data center solutions group, which is obviously in this market a major focus at PowerSecure.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on a few of the things that you are doing there. And I just want to drill in a little bit further. I know in the prep for this, we talked about kind of the growing demand on utility systems for new data centers, particularly within that bring your own power that data centers are now being asked to do in order to alleviate strain. Can you just elaborate on how that is becoming unmanageable for utilities and how your microgrid solutions address that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll give you one practical example. So we have one of our utility partners that it took them 100 years to get to 7.3 gigawatts of load capacity, peak capacity. And they currently have over 14 gigawatts of active data center applications, which could triple their capacity need over a 5-year period. This is obviously unmanageable for anybody. And then the other part of that, the big part of that with the utilities is they have to do what is right for their ratepayers or their shareholders, as well as to these large data center companies would like to move in. So it's going to require a huge capital investment. And how do you manage that? And how do you spread that risk across both the utility, their ratepayers, and the large data center users? Then the other trick here is, in that particular example, the 14 megawatts of applications, how much of it is really real? Because a lot of those applications are competing for the same hyperscale load. So there has a need there for everybody to be transparent about how much load is actually going to be added to these utilities. The other thing that's happened is, over the past years, if there was a large load coming in, it would typically take a utility maybe 3 years or so to get the permanent capacity there. Now we're seeing, time frames more in the 5 to 8, even 10-year range. So if you want to have a data center behind that utility, now you have to bring in your own capacity, bring in your own bridge power. But if you're that also requires a very large capital investment. And if it's only for a 3 to 5 or even a 3 to 8 year period, that presents some other problems with how to finance that capacity. So at PowerSecure, we've kind of taken two approaches. Number one, we with the capacity that we bring in, it's very clean, and it can usually then be enrolled in utility programs later after its initial bridge power use. And then we've kind of coined the phrase bridge power and beyond, where we're taking a much longer life cycle approach to the data center's current need for bridge power, the utility's long-term need to provide that high load factor customer with their energy in the future.
Yeah, that's a great phrase. Thank you. And you mentioned a little bit about how that landscape's evolving, but I wonder, from your perspective, where do you see that going in the future?
Oh wow! So yeah, it's definitely an evolving landscape for sure. I mean, just think, just 5 years ago, would you ever thought that data centers would be purchasing nuclear power plants? Right? It's just impossible. And what's happening now? I mean, the is it's kind of a gold rush for what we call powered land. And then, and that's across the entire country. And it used to be the data centers were focused in what we call tier one cities. So they were very centralized in certain cities across the United States. But now what you're seeing is a lot of those communities are saying, they're kind of revolting against data centers. They're saying no to any more data centers because of the amount of power and water that they typically require. And so that presents problems in those cities. So data centers are moving to either tier two cities or more remote locations to find both powered land and water. And again, our solutions of bridge power and beyond help them to obtain that goal.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit earlier, kind of around that utilities piece and that future-looking prospects. How does PowerSecure collaborate with utilities for data centers, looking for that win-win solution? Can you share a little bit more on an example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So us collaborating with utilities is in our DNA. Now, first of all, I mentioned we were owned by the Southern Company, so we are part of a major, very innovative utility to begin with, and then we have partnerships that we've built over the past 25 years across the country with both investor-owned utilities and public power in cooperatives and municipal power. And those relationships have existed. So, we're not coming in new. When a data center wants to come behind one of our utilities, we have a tremendous history with that utility, and we know their key drivers. We're familiar with their accumulated demand curves and the things that really can make a project very, very successful. So, that is just, again, part of our DNA to collaborate. And then we understand what we focus on with our data center companies is what we call the 3 Rs. It's resiliency, reduced emissions, and rate of return. And when you combine that approach with us knowing our utility partners and collaborate, that's when you can bring really extraordinary value to both the data center company and the utility as well.
Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned those 3 Rs: resiliency, reduced emissions, ROI. How do these principles help drive solutions for you?
Yeah, so that's really the core of our business. So first of all, every data center needs a level of resiliency, and they even vary to different forms. But most data centers require what we call 5 nines reliability. So it's 99.999% availability of power to their data center. So that's kind of a given. But a lot of data centers in the past have just used traditional standby power diesel engine generators to accomplish that five nines reliability. And we really focus on bringing in very clean EPA Tier 4 final or natural gas assets so that instead of the data center making a sunken investment in just standby power, now that same asset that hardly ever runs can now run many, many more hours a year to help the utility with, and that is part of the bring your own capacity or the bridge power and beyond kind of solution. And then because we do use those clean assets, we're actually, even though there may be a few more run hours during the year to help the utility out during peak times, which makes everybody's life in the entire territory better, we're actually putting out less emissions than you would if you just ran your tier 2 generators, a few hours out of the entire year. And then our experience has been, all of our customers want to be, environmentally friendly, but there's that old adage, no margin, no mission. And so that's why we take that focus with the rate of return. And the other thing about us in the three R's that is very different than some of our competitors in the industry is, one solution or one size doesn't fit all. So we start with kind of a blank sheet of paper every time, and we start with that concept of the three R's, and then we build that custom solution for that customer. Because there are similarities in data centers, but everybody has a little bit different need, and the utility has a little bit different need. And when you can really bring those together, that's when the magic can happen.
That's interesting. And I know you mentioned, so bringing back that 3R piece and how that fits into your goals. Where does sustainability fit into your company goals going forwards?
Oh, in every facet of it, that's that second R of reduced emissions and reduced carbon footprint. And the one thing that we do, instead of looking at RECs or projects outside of our customers' fences, we make sure that everything that with our microgrids that are installed within their fence is also very environmentally friendly. Again, we've got our power blocks that we manufacture. They are the only U.S. patented engine generation system that exists in the country. One of the reasons for that is how clean they are. We've worked with Volvo for years to not only, we are now beyond EPA Tier 4 final, we are at European Stage 5, which is even cleaner. And then we're also building our natural gas power block assets. And we recently, we've converted our fleet here over to HVO. So it's a renewable fuel. So our systems can be 100% renewable. And we're seeing many of our data center customers converting over to HVO. So they're cleaner, and they're not only their local carbon footprint, but their impact on a more global carbon footprint has improved.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd appreciate you going into a little bit more there about your sustainability goals. And for the final point here on the talk with you today, can you just very quickly and briefly summarize what it is that PowerSecure is doing differently to other companies at the moment?
So again, we start with when a customer in a data center comes to PowerSecure, we kind of start with a clean sheet. We're not going to sell some canned solution. We listen to what their goals are and what their needs are, and then we then look at wherever they're going to be in whichever utility territory across the country, what that utility's goals and needs are, and then we try to meld those together into a mission critical power microgrid solution that's going to be a win-win for the data center, for the utility, and for the utility's ratepayers or stockholders. So that is the difference in our approach. The other thing, as I said, that makes us unique in the industry is we have all the core competencies under one roof to accomplish that. And because we monitor all of our microgrids on a 24/7 basis, and we have been doing that since our founding, we are able to increase the reliability, the optimize the finances of that microgrid over time in ways that are, again, very, very unique in our industry.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate you coming on today and just talking through what you're doing at the moment. I think we are just about out of time, so thank you again for coming on. And just to finish, should our audience wish to find out any more about PowerSecure or what you're doing, where should they go to find that?
PowerSecure.com.
PowerSecure.com. Thank you, Mark.